In the heyday of this theater, when the show didn't start on time, people start stomping their feet, getting rowdy. Clapping their hands. Chanting, I can't wait! 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 Here you are! I can't wait! I can't wait! All right! What you're looking for is at the back of the room, 2 doors down to the left. Ladies and gentlemen, the man you're about to meet here today is truly a great American, and he has condescended to appear here and come upon a material form, his spirit, cloak an actor today, to speak to you and deliver to you a very important message. He's not only here to entertain you, he's here to tell you something that I think we all need to hear, that we all need to be reminded of. This man is regarded as the Lincoln of our literature, the American Shakespeare. He is the author of the first great American novel. Prior to his writing, there really was no American literature. And he was the first American to begin writing in a natural voice and speaking to the issues of the day, issues which still remain germane with us. He is what we would call an evergreen. In writing this novel, it became the first book to be written on a typewriter. It took him 7 years to write it. He didn't have any whiteout. He is also the owner of the first private telephone. The newspapers loved him so much, and they loved his quotes so much that they would constantly hover about him and ask him for quotes. And so when the telephone appeared on the scene, they put the first one in his house so they could call him up and get his reactions to things. He's also the inventor of the adjustable suspender and also the self-adhesive scrapbook. So a man of this particular stature certainly deserves a very special welcome when we bring him out on stage. Don't you think so? So let's practice a little bit, bringing him out on stage. I want to hear a great Piper's Opera House cheer from everyone here. Could we practice doing that on the count of 3? Ready? 1, 2, 3. You know, you are a great crowd. You're a wonderful audience. But I think that on a day like this, for a man like this, you can make it twice as long and twice as loud, and you know you really ought to jump up out of your chairs and throw your hands in the air for this man, all right? And this particular moment, because you are making history here. That's what this building is. It is history, and it's because of people like you, each and every one of you, that this place is being brought back to life. Let's hear it again. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3! I'll go get him. Mr. Twain, your stomach is waiting for you, sir. Some people who have come a long ways to see you, sir. Oh, Mr. Twain, please, you have to put out the cigar. You're not allowed to smoke backstage. All right, well, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to you the Lincoln of our literature, the American Shakespeare, the most noticed man on earth. Let's hear it for Mr. Mark Twain! Thank you. Thank you very much. My real name is Samuel Longhorn Clemens, and it was right here in Piper's Opera House in Virginia City that I first became Mark Twain. Now today marks a special occasion, and I would like to read to you an opening prayer. I've not been taken as a religious man, but this being a special day, I thought I would muster something for your edification and your entertainment. If you all bow your heads and take a reverent position. No laughing or joking around now. O Lord, our Father, our young patriots, idols of our hearts, go forth to battle. Be thou near them. O Lord, our God, help us to tear their soldiers to bloody shreds with our shells. Help us to cover their smiling fields with the pale forms of their patriot dead. Help us to drown the thunder of their guns and the shrieks of their wounded, writhing in pain. Help us to lay waste to their humble homes with a hurricane of fire. Help us to wring the hearts of their unoffending widows with unavailing grief. For our sakes, O thee, O Lord, blast their hopes, blight their lives, protract their bitter pilgrimage, make heavy their steps, water their way with their tears, stain the white snow with the blood of their wounded feet. We ask it in the spirit of love, of him who is the source of love, and who is ever faithful, the ever faithful refuge and friend of all of us who are sore beset and seek his aid with humble and contrite hearts. Amen. I can see you don't quite know how to react to that. Well, it was right here, as I said before, that I first became Mark Twain in Virginia City. I was serving as a Confederate soldier in the Missouri militia at the outbreak of hostilities. And after a couple of weeks of soldiering, I decided I'd give it up and give the Union Army a chance. So at that same time, my brother Orion was coming west. He had been named the Secretary of State for the territory of Nevada, Utah Territory formerly. And I saw that as being potentially a wonderful adventure. And so I begged Orion to please take me with him, because I wanted to have an adventure too, and I might get myself scalped, or maybe even hung, and it would be ever so much fun. So Orion said I could go, and as long as I would act as his personal secretary. He wouldn't pay me anything, he said, but I didn't care, because, you see, I figured I'd get rich. I had heard that this was the richest place on earth, that men were getting filthy, stinking rich. That big nuggets of gold were popping their way up out of the ground, and all a fella had to do to become wealthy was simply bend over. Just seconds. Well, when I got here, I didn't find any of those nuggets. I figured somebody beat me to it. So I took a shovel, and I figured I'd apply a little industry, something obviously no one else had done. So I started digging, and I went down a few inches, and then a few feet, and still no gold. And pretty soon I found myself at the bottom of a very deep pit, and I was having trouble getting the dirt out over the edge of the hole. And pretty soon it would just all come raining down back on me and going down my shirt collar, filling my pants, not with gold or silver, but with worthless dirt. And then the shovel hit me on the back of the head and knocked me out. As I was laying there in that hole, one of my friends came by and delivered the mail. And when I woke up, I found there on my chest a letter from the Territorial Enterprise. And you see, I had been submitting some of my written work to the local newspapers because I like to write. And one of them took an interest in what I was doing. And when I looked at that letter from the Territorial Enterprise, it was an offer to go to work for them at $25 a week. Working for them as a liar. I mean, a journalist. Well, I snatched that right up. And I walked 125 miles from Aurora all the way to Virginia City. And when I arrived here, I discovered the most remarkable thing that I had ever seen. This city, high on a mountaintop, out in the middle of the desert, out in the middle of nowhere. And yet it was bustling, it was booming. Drays and wagons and mule teams were filling the street. You couldn't even get across the street, and the sidewalks were bustling with men who all had a glint in their eye because they knew that either they were rich or they soon were going to become rich. And say, speaking of boardwalks and sidewalks, have you seen those new, nice, flat cement sidewalks down in Reno and Carson City? Yeah. Well, here's a fella who's been drinking a wee bit, had a little too much, walking down one of those nice, flat new sidewalks in Carson. Okay, well, now here's that same fella up here in Virginia City walking down one of our bumpily boardwalks. Well, there was a lot of drinking going on up here in Virginia City, but they had no town drunk. They were all taking turns. Here's a Virginia City fella getting himself fitted for glasses. It's an IQ test. You gotta be polite and laugh at a fella's jokes sometimes. He's trying so hard. And you gotta be nice. The ladies up here in Virginia City, too, say something complimentary when you see one like, oh, nice tooth. Well, my first occupation was to come down here and be a play reviewer down here at Piper's Opera House. And so I thought I would go over and introduce myself to the proprietor, a little German fellow by the name of John Piper. So I went up to the owner saloon, and the bar, and ordered myself double and shot 3 fingers. Excuse me. My name is Sam Clemens, and I would like 3 fingers of your finest Scotch whiskey, and please put it on my tab. Put it on your tab? There, but you want a credit here, young man. You won't get it. No, you want a loan? You want to get a loan? Huh? Go stand alone in the closets, huh? Or go down to the Bank of California. They have money. They'll give you something, but lots of credit means lots of interest for you, and we do not give any. Excuse me. But might I remind you that I am a writer. I'm here to review your show tour and print my opinion of it in tomorrow's newspaper. Describing it as a journalist. Und they didn't over the Ganze and he reached into his pocket and he took out a piece of chalk and he went to the back wall where he made 2 marks. And then he looked at me and he said, Mark Twain for Sam Clemens. Mark Twain for Sam Clemens. Mark Twain for Sam. I like that. I used to be a riverboat pilot on the Mississippi River. And when the leadsman would take a depth sounding and cast out the lead, he'd say something like, Mark 4. And that meant that there was lots of room underneath the boat. We could all relax, sit back, and have a mint julep. Well, when he said Mark 3, that meant that things were getting interesting, and you better drink up. And when he said, Mark Twain, well, that meant that things were getting shallow and dangerous, and people would get all skittery and nervous, and they'd jump up and run over to the side of the rail, wondering, oh, what the matter could be. Maybe a big log is going to come punching its way up through the bottom of the boat and sink us all. But I like that. A name that would make people skittery and nervous, and could be appended to work that was shallow and dangerous. Shallow, easy to write, and dangerous, lots of impact. So every day when I came in to review a show at Piper's Opera House, order for myself 3 fingers of really good Scotch whiskey. John Piper would say, Mark Twain for Sam Clemens, and the name stuck. I began using it as a pen name, and have used it, I think, successfully ever since. I asked Joe, I said, now, what do you want, Joe Goodman, the publisher of the Enterprise, I said, now, what do you want me to do as a reporter? He said, well, you just go around and you just take note of whatever's going on, make a record of it all. Just walk around and see what's happening. So I started looking around, and I was impressed by the amount of noise that was going on here 24 hours a day. The stamp mills going, and the explosions as they were sinking these shafts deeper and deeper into the ground. And, well, speaking of that, every now and then a fellow would get a little hasty in his pursuit of gold and set off a charge prematurely. And it would shoot him out of that mine tunnel like a shot out of a cannon barrel. And he'd go flying through the air. One fellow went right through the stained glass window of the Presbyterian church. A beautiful portrayal of John the Apostle looking heavenward like this. Well, moments later, he came rushing out the front door, pursued by a pack of all heated up widows and spinsters, chasing him down the boardwalk, trying to get hooks into him, and finally took refuge in the corner saloon, and they had to regroup and go back all dejected like and wait for another one. Well, but they did replace the window, but instead of John going like this, going like this. Another fellow went through the skylight of the International Hotel and went through every floor consecutively until he hit bottom where the saloon was, immediately ejected for being drunk. And then they put a sign out front announcing the first indoor elevator west of the Mississippi. Another fellow went through the roof of the jailhouse, landed right in the cell. All they had to do was just turn the key and write him up for breaking and entering. All 3 of them were fired from being absent from work. I think that that's the origin of the word fired. It was certainly a thrill to be here during that time and to write about it. I was here for 21 months. And at the end of 21 months, I got run out of town for dueling. I'd written a story about when I had been drinking a bit, about the Ladies' Aid Society, who had been gathering money and funds for the sanitation committee, which was our version of what you call the Red Cross for the Union war dead. And I reported that instead of giving the money to the sanitation fund, that they gave the money to the Miscegenation Society. A miscegenation means race mixing, intermarriage between the races. You see, there was a group that believed that if we would all just marry outside of our race, we wouldn't have any more race problems. It made a lot of sense, but for some reason people didn't seem to go for it. And after I read the article back to him, I figured it wasn't too good to print. So just as I was about ready to crumple it up, Dan DeQuill comes in and says, "Come on, Mark, let's go get another drink." So I toddled off with him and left it on the table, and some typesetter got a hold of it, put it in the newspaper, and it got printed the very next day. And then it was like stirring up a hornet's nest, and pretty soon the editor of the other newspaper was calling me a liar, and I took offense to that. And so I challenged him to a duel, and we met out here on Banana Flats. Well, we were to. We got there kind of late, and I was there with my partner, Steve King, who was a crack shot. I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. We were doing a little target practice, and Steve says, "Well, it's easy. Look at this." And he shot the head off a prairie chicken that was running across the thing. And just then this fella rides up, and he sees that prairie chicken. He said, "You shot the head off of that prairie chicken." And Steve said, "Well, it was Mark here that did that." And that poor fella got right back on his horse and rode out of town. Well, later that day, I got a call from the foreman of the grand jury. And I said, "Mark, I'm the highest power of the county. As a foreman, I picked by sortition. It is at random, by lot from the community. And as a grand jury, we represent not the will, but the conscience of the community. And, well, to put it briefly, Mark, you're going to have to leave town, or we're going to have you arrested." And so knowing the better of it, I got on my horse and rode out of Virginia City and went up to San Francisco, and that was the end of it. But in 21 months, I met some of the most amazing people here, and probably the most amazing was John Mackey, who became the richest man in America after coming here penniless, without a cent to his name, but by using his brains and by being a man of integrity and honesty and hard work and stick-to-itiveness. He became the third richest man in the world and one of the progenitors of the great American Industrial Revolution. And you can still visit his home. It survived the Great Fire, as did his legend. Well, being talked to death is an awful fate indeed. And so it's coming to the end of our soiree, but I want to open it up for any questions that you might have regarding Mark Twain. Yes, sir.
How many girlfriends did you have here in town, Mark?
Well, I was a single man, and this is the home of legalized girlfriends. There was one lady there who we all adored very much. Her name was Julia Boulette, and she was actually a copperhead, which was a term that we used for Southerners who had turned to the Union cause. I suppose that would make me a copperhead. But she was very much loved, and when she was most foully murdered, we gave for her the biggest funeral that this town has ever seen. And Mackey himself was a pallbearer at that funeral. And when he came home, he got the business for coming in late, and he wanted to know where he was. Finally, he said that he had attended Julia Boulette's funeral. And they started picking on him for going to a harlot's funeral. And, well, he was a man, and when he got excited, he'd start to stutter a bit. He was Irish. He said, well, she may have been a harlot, but she was a damn fine woman. And she was, too. And we honor her still today. Well, if there aren't any more questions, let me tell you that I am 166 years old. They say if a man puts a flower in his boutonniere, it makes him look 10 years younger, huh? What do you think? Is it working? Thank you. In these 166 years, I have been a student of the human condition. And I have been regarded as something of a cynic, but I am not a cynic. Because a cynic is somebody who doesn't believe anything. A cynic is somebody who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. A skeptic, however, is the type of man that we're looking for in the journalism business because he doesn't believe everything he hears. But there are things that he does believe. And he knows that you can't really know anything for sure. The truth is a commodity that never can be quite nailed down. So, I've only really come to one conclusion. One word of what's important to us as human beings. What keeps us together. And in a word, that's love. You can't love anybody any more than you love yourself. And you can't be loved any more than you love others. And so what that means is that we have to start loving ourselves a little bit more. So here's what I want to leave with you. Is a little technique and a tonic for you when things are tough. And I know you're going through some tough times now. I know you're going through some real tough times now. So what I want you to do is whenever you're feeling down and kind of punky, you're feeling stressed or angry, things aren't going your way, you go look at yourself in the eye. And you put your hands over your heart. And just tell yourself that you like yourself. It's okay. And you need to give your children permission to do this. A child needs to be told that it's all right to like themselves. Feel the warmth go into your heart when you say it, and you'll feel it. Now, I like myself. And you can upgrade to the next level when you're comfortable with liking yourself. That's all that's really important. Bringing this place back to its original beauty, putting a new foundation, with help from people like you, and a new roof. And soon we'll get around to the paint job and the cosmetics. Put a new face on it. So we're reaching out to you today to help out. $5 bill in the hat back there would be taken as a great boon. $10 would not be too much. And $20, you might just see a swoon. So inclined, can flip in a couple of hundreds. May I impose upon you all to rise. I've borrowed a man's body today to talk to you, and I want to introduce you to him and thank him for his for putting up with me. The actor who played the part of Mark Twain today, Mr. John Robert Benneth. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy Virginia City as much as I've enjoyed performing for you today. Thank you.
Okay, what you've seen was Mark Twain at Piper's Opera House. Now I'd like to introduce you to the person that portrays Mark Twain, Mr. John Bennett. And John, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in doing this?
I came down here late September of the year 2000, and I was sort of, sort of guided by my inner voice to come down here, and just drove right up to the Opera House and immediately knew what it was that I wanted to do, and got some little employment down here, and found a place to stay and started meeting people. And one thing sort of led to another. By January, I had my show ready, and did my first show in January 26th of, that would have been 2001. And then that following summer, started doing shows on a daily basis. that summer I did about 100 shows.
Now, which different kind of shows do you do? I know we were down here one year and you did one different than the one that the folks had just seen tonight.
That was more sort of inspired by Mark Twain's essay on mental telegraphy. He was one of the first writers on the subject of telepathy, and he had a lot of experiences, a lot of coincidental experiences that led him to believe that there was a connection between minds, and so we thought it would be fun to do a little demonstration of that. We also, of course, had the part that you participated in, which was we'd bring people up on stage, and it would appear as if we hypnotized them, and they become possessed by spirits of the Comstock.
Right.
And go through a little story about the history of things like that. And we really found that audiences really enjoyed that a lot. The problem with it was it would kind of drag out. I don't want to say drag out, but it would make the show a little bit longer. We wouldn't be able to tell as much of the history of the program, and also it required a lot of assistance in order to pull that off. So this year I wanted to just focus on doing a one-man show. And
The one-man show was very, very good.
thank you.
You did an excellent job on it. Now, can you tell us a little bit on the background, how you got into doing theatrical stuff?
Well, I was very quiet as a boy, real shy, and I discovered that when I had a chance to perform in front of people, that it really brought me out. Really enjoyed doing that, and so became involved in theater in high school, and then I got a job down on the Oregon coast working in a theater, a little summer stock theater, where we were paid minimum wage to work 6 days a week and produce hundreds of shows. We act in hundreds of shows, and later on I went on to direct and write shows for that theater. And then when I went back to Portland, I went to work for the man I consider to be probably the best theatrical producer of his time in Portland, Oregon. His name was Mark Allen, and he had a group called the Mark Allen Players. And a lot of people in Portland, I'm sure, remember him, and really a neat guy.
Now, you are from Portland, Oregon,
I was
correct?
born and raised in Portland, Oregon, and so that was where most of my theatrical experience has been, is in Portland on the Oregon coast, and dinner theater shows and melodrama throughout the state. Mostly with Mark, working with Mark Allen, and other shows. My wife, it was about 15 years ago, I guess, started the Phoenix Theater Company and started producing some shows. So there was some theater then, but I sort of stopped doing theater for a while.
What other kind of people have you portrayed in theaters, or, what kind of plays have you done besides Mark Twain?
Well, I haven't really done any. This is the first one-man show I've done. And I really didn't have any interest in Mark Twain to speak of prior to coming here.
But you look like him.
Thank you. Well, that was just another one of those strange coincidences that seem to have been popping up an awful lot lately for me. And then I found out, coincidentally, that they also happen to Mark Twain a lot, too. When I came down here, Hal Holbrook was scheduled to do his show at Piper's Opera House, and he was getting $75 a head, and he sold out the performance. And thought, well, geez, that with Mark Twain being so much a part of Virginia City, this is where he started his career and everything. Make a great show for tourists coming to town, and seems like a natural thing. And having had some acting experience, I thought, well, this is an opportunity, and somebody ought to seize it. So I thought, I'll do it. So I put together a proposal and submitted it to the Opera House board, and they accepted it. Other than that, other than Mark Twain, I haven't really done anything like this before. A lot of my acting work after I stopped doing a lot of stage work was in commercials and training videos and things like that. I had a real good agent in Portland that got me a lot of work. So I kind of was sort of a low-level, two-bit actor, professional actor type person, working in Portland for a while. And eventually I decided I wanted to make some money, so I quit acting and went into a voicemail business where I programmed some computers to run voicemail ads. And did pretty well at that for a while. But when that sort of wound down, then I thought, I really enjoyed acting, really enjoyed doing that sort of thing. So when this opportunity came up, I knew exactly what it was
Where would you like to go from here? Saying not leaving Virginia City or something like that, but where would your expectations like to take you to further?
Well, I think my dreams are the same as probably anybody else would be in a position like this. Love to get into the big time, but I can see a possibility of taking this act in for convention work and stuff like that. It'd be good.
The next time you are in Virginia City, we recommend from Visions from Beyond and also from Northwest Paranormal Investigations, when you come to Virginia City, this is a show that you must see. You will not regret it.
Well, thank you, Robert. That's very nice.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate everything that you've done for me. You coming down here and being fellow Oregonians, it's just really been like having family down here, and you've given me a lot of encouragement. You've also opened my eyes to a lot of things, and you've helped me a great deal. I want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing and everything that you've done for me.
And now, we want to thank John for inviting us into the Mackey Mansion where he is staying at. We're taking this live shot right here in the main office. So when you come to Virginia City, make sure you come and see Mark Twain. Thank you very much.